court in Bangladesh has delivered a guilty verdict in a trial against ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for crimes against humanity. She has been sentenced to death.
We have decided to inflict her with only one sentence, that is sentence of death.
The tribunal tried the former leader in absentia for ordering the crackdown on a student-led uprising last year. The exiled leader was found guilty on 3 counts for her role in the killing of at least 1,400 people. Prosecutors say they uncovered evidence of her direct command to use lethal force. Her former aide, the former interior minister, now fugitive Asaduzzaman Khan Kamal, also received the death penalty. The 78-year-old says the charges, of course, as Sheikh Hasina says the charges are unjustified, calling the verdict biased and politically motivated. She claims the hearing was presided over by an unelected government and expressed willingness to attend a fresh trial outside her home nation. Bangladesh's interim government is calling for calm as fears of backlash mount over what it's calling an historic verdict. Authorities have warned that any attempt to create chaos and disorder will be dealt with strictly. Sheikh Hasina's former ruling party, that's the Awami League, meanwhile has declared a nationwide shutdown tomorrow.
আমাদের এই সংগ্রাম অবৈধ ইউনূস সরকার যতক্ষণ পর্যন্ত না স্টেপ ডাউন না হবে ততক্ষণ পর্যন্ত আমাদের সংগ্রাম আমাদের লড়াই আরো তীব্র থেকে তীব্রতর হবে।
And joining us live now from New Delhi is Neha Punya. She's covering developments for CNA. Neha, the Bangladeshi Foreign Ministry has, following this verdict, asked India to hand over Sheikh Hasina. Of course, she is in exile in India. Bangladesh citing an extradition treaty. India has not, this request was issued the first time late last year. India has not responded to it. What options does Delhi have with this repeated request from Bangladesh?
You know, as after that guilty verdict was handed out to Sheikh Hasina, she was tried in absentia, and as well as to her home minister, her former home minister, and that sentence was read out. You had the interim government of Bangladesh issue that statement that was directed towards India. It's saying that India has an obligatory duty to extradite Sheikh Hasina to Bangladesh, and that it would be a grave, quote, unfriendly act if India refuses to do that. Also saying that it's contempt of justice to grant asylum to those individuals convicted of crimes against humanity. And I'm quoting this statement. You know, this is along expected lines. Like you were saying, India and Bangladesh have an extradition treaty that was signed in 2013, updated again a few years later, incidentally signed when Sheikh Hasina was in power. Bangladesh first made that formal request to get Sheikh Hasina back in December last year, followed up in February this year as well with the documents needed to actually action that request into a formal one. And back then, India's Ministry of External Affairs had acknowledged the receipt of those documents, but not said anything further. And there has been a studied silence from New Delhi on Bangladesh's extradition request because, you know, this does put India in a tough spot, experts agree, especially now that Sheikh Hasina has been granted that guilty verdict and she's been found guilty of committing, quote, crimes against humanity. You know, former envoys have been speaking to say that there are certain exemption clauses in that extradition treaty which India could exercise. For one, there is, you know, the question of whether or not these charges are politically motivated or made in good faith. Those might be grounds that India might use to reject that extradition request. But so far, we've not heard anything from the Indian government, but they're saying they will react very soon.
Nia, presumably if New Delhi relies on those exemption clauses you mentioned, that might have an impact on ties with Bangladesh.
Absolutely. I mean, in the aftermath of Sheikh Hasina fleeing Bangladesh, she made a straight beeline to New Delhi, and this was supposed to be a short halt before she flew out to another country. There was talk of her possibly going to Europe, but that didn't happen. And, she's spoken in the run-up to this verdict as well, thanking the people of India for granting her, quote, temporary refuge. But the fact that Sheikh Hasina has been so closely, aligned with the Indian government, the sort of support that she received because she was in power for 15 years, and the kind of close ties that New Delhi and Dhaka had, that has angered many in Bangladesh. And the fact that India has also not commented so far on what they plan to do with the extradition request is also something that, has turned sentiment to quite a large extent against New Delhi in Bangladesh. The Indian government has just issued a statement following CNA's request for a reaction on what the Yunus government has said. And they're saying, and I'm quoting now, as a close neighbor, India remains committed to the best interests of the people of Bangladesh, including in peace, democracy, inclusion, and stability in that country. We will always engage constructively with all stakeholders to that end. So not really saying what they're going to do with